Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you all for being here. Prabhuji, I think we are ready. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Narayana namaskritya narachaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jaya mudiriyat nashtapraya subhadresu nityam bhagavatam sevaya bhagavati uttamasloke bhakti bhavati naistiki Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Is it 18 or 19?
Oh, it's 19, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, 19.
Okay. So we are reading from the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, Canto 1, Chapter 17, Text 19. Chapter 17 is entitled Punishment and Reward of Kali. And today we are treating text 19, which is on the screen. Kechit vikalpa vashana ahur admanam atmanaha daivam anye pare karma swabhavam apare prabhum. Kechit vikalpa vashana ahur admanam atmanaha Daivim anye pare karma swabhavam apare prabhum. Kechit vikalpa vashana ahur admanam atmanaha Daivam anye pare karma swabhavam apare prabhum. Word for word translation. Kechit, some of them. Vikalpa vashana, those who deny all kinds of duality. Ahur, declare. Atmanam, own self. Atmanaha, of the self. Daivam, superhuman. Anye, others. Apare, someone else. Karma, activity. Swabhavam, material nature. Apare, many others. Prabhum, authorities. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Jagadguru, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Some of the philosophers who deny all sorts of duality declare that one's own self is responsible for his personal happiness and distress. Others say that superhuman powers are responsible, while yet others say that activity is responsible, and the gross materialists maintain that nature is the ultimate cause. Purport. As referred to, the above philosophers like Gemini and his followers established that fruitive activity is the root cause of all distress and happiness, and that even if there is a superior authority, some superhuman powerful god or gods, he or they are also under the influence of fruitive activity because their reward results according to one's action. They say that action is not independent because action is performed, by some performer. Therefore, the performer himself is the cause of his own happiness or distress. In the Bhagavad Gita 6.5, also it is confirmed that by one's mind, free from material affection, one can deliver himself from the sufferings of material pangs. So one should not entangle oneself in matter by the mind's material affections. Thus, one's own mind is one's friend or enemy in one's material happiness and distress. Atheistic materialistic Sankhya's conclude that the material nature is the cause of all causes. According to them, combinations of material elements are the causes of material happiness and distress. And this integration of matter is the cause of freedom from all material pangs. Gautama and Kanada find that atomic combination is the cause of everything. And impersonalists like Astavakra discovered that the spiritual effulgence of Brahman is the cause of all causes. But in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord himself declares that he is the source of impersonal Brahman, and therefore he is the personality of Godhead. And the personality of Godhead is the ultimate cause of all causes. It is also confirmed in the Brahma Samhita that Lord Krishna is the ultimate cause of all causes. Om Jnana Timirasya Jnana Ganashalakaya Chakshuramali Tam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yukta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunastam Vitam Tam Sanjivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitam Scha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swaminiti Namini Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Ashritatmane Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Iti Namini Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvese Sasuyavadi Pasachade Satarini Vanchakalpataravyascha Kripasandubhya Ivacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namini Gaura Twize Namaha Nityanando Vatutendur Vasuda Pranavalabha Janavir Jivita Patir Krishna Prema Prabhu Padmavati Sutta Srimam Sachidananda Purvajaha Bhavum Mata Jagat Rakta Rakta Gora Kele Varaha Advaitam Harinadvaita Racharyam Bhakti Shamshanat Bhaktavataram Itam Sham Advaita Acharya Ashraye Panchatattamakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanabaya Nama Pankajamaline Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajagraye Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya cha Jagaritaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopita Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Jayatam Surato Pango Mama Madirgati Masarvaswa Padam Bujo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vendaranya Kalpadrumada Srimad Ranadhara Simhastanastau Sri Sri Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prishyali Visivya Manosmarami Shri Mamra Sarasarambi Vamsivata Tatastita Karusan Venuswanai Gopi Gopinata Sri Estunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Bindavanishwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Devi Krishnamai Prokta Radhika Paradevata Sarva Lakshmi Mai Sarvam Kanti Samohini Paraha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. Some of the philosophers who deny all sorts of duality declare that one's own self is responsible for his personal happiness and distress. Others say that superhuman powers are responsible, while yet others say that activity is responsible, and the gross materialists maintain that nature is the ultimate cause. Mugam karoti vachalam pangum lagayete grim yat kri patamahan vande Shri Guru Dina Taranam Paramanam Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Akanda Mandalakaram Vyapta Yena Characharam Tatpadam Dashitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. So everyone is welcome to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. And before we proceed to say something, we first of all seek the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis so that we can be able to represent the author of Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahamuni Srila Vyasadeva. Krishna Das Kaviraj in the Chaitanya Charitamrita offers such prayer to the assembly of devotees. Durgame Patime Indasya Skala Pada Gate Muhuru. You know why people will be calling me when they know it's time for class. Swa Kripa Yasti Danena Santu Santa Avalambalam. So Krishna Das Kaviraj is a very exalted personality. Sometimes he's referred to as an expansion of Srila Dev, just like Vrindavan Das Thakur. Vrindavan Das Thakur, who compiled the Chaitanya Bhagavat, is said to be an incarnation of Srila Dev, just to compile the activities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Krishna Das Kaviraj, in the same mood, compiled those areas, those activities that were left out by Vrindavan Das Thakur. So he's praying to the devotees that, my dear devotees, kindly extend your stick of mercy, Yasti Dhanena. Extend your stick of mercy unto me, because my path is very slippery, and therefore I need the support of all the devotees. So this verse is talking about, actually just a continuation from yesterday's verse. If you look at yesterday's verse, it talked about, all greatest among human beings, it's very difficult to ascertain the particular miscreants who has caused our sufferings, because we are bewildered by all the different opinions of theoretical philosophers. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada talked about the 6 different philosophies in India. So here again, he refers in the first line of the actually, throughout the purport, he refers to some of those main philosophers. So India is a great supermarket. It's a big supermarket of various philosophies, various theories. And even up to today, more and more philosophies and theories are being propagated, propounded, created. And so even these 6 philosophies, main philosophies, they have been outnumbered, because we have the Buddhist philosophy of nirvana, nothingness. We have the Jainist philosophy, which they said it originates from Lord Rishabhadev. Then we have the Ram Mohan, what do they call it? It's called Ram Mohan philosophy, a combination of Christianity and the Vedic literatures. Then we have the philosophy of Sai Baba, not the other Sai Baba, or Guru Nanak. I think it's Guru Nanak. Guru Nanak. Guru Nanak is a combination of Islam and the Vedic literatures. So till today, many philosophies, theories are still coming up by different people, different philosophers, in an attempt to explain the cause and effect of material nature. They are trying to explain how the living entity is experiencing suffering and happiness, how the living entity obtains the material body. So we have Kananda. His philosophy is called the Vaisheshika philosophy, also known as the Paramanu Vada philosophy. That states that the visible universe is created from a stock of atoms. So that is his philosophy. The universe is created from a stock of atoms. But the question is, who provided the atoms? It's just like the modern science of Big Bang theory, the primordial soup. The ingredients of that soup, who created it? Wherever we go, we must go to the point of a creator. It doesn't matter which way we pass, we always end up with an intelligent design. So the Kanadas, their philosophy is that the universe was created from a pile of atoms, which cannot be true. Gautama Muni, he invented the Nyaya Sutras or Nyaya philosophy, logic. Everything is based on logic. And therefore, he says one can attain liberation by negating both illusion and unhappiness. That is the philosophy of Gautama. Through logic, one can negate illusion, one can negate unhappiness, and one can attain liberation. But the point is that logic is also material. And to free oneself from this material nature, you cannot use a material means. You have to use a transcendental means. You have to use something superior to the material energy, which is transcendence, which is Bhakti Yoga. But Gautama and his followers, they believe that by Nyaya, logic, they can negate illusion and unhappiness, and they can attain liberation, which is not a fact. Patanjali, he came up with the issue of mystic yoga, yoga siddhis. He feels that the perfection of life is to attain these yoga siddhis. Once you are able to develop these yoga siddhis, then you can control material nature and you can do whatever you want with the siddhis. So he kind of tried to avoid a supreme controller. That means the yoga siddhis are just there, anybody can develop them, and you can control material nature. But in the 12th canto of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, Lord Krishna tells Uddhava that there are two kinds of yoga siddhis. We have the primary yoga siddhis and we have the secondary yoga siddhis. The primary yoga siddhis, they take shelter in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are under the full control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The secondary yoga siddhis are available in this material world. And they can be developed by anyone who is in the mode of goodness. Their origin is from the mode of goodness. So those yoga siddhis that Patanjali is talking about is material, coming from the mode of goodness. But the actual siddhis are an intrinsic part of the energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So again, we cannot deny the fact that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the source of all siddhis. Yogeshwaro Krishna. Krishna is the master of all yogis, is the master of all mysticism. Everything actually emanates from him. So, to develop these yoga siddhis, the primary yoga siddhis, one has to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those are the real siddhis. When Krishna decides to give it to a devotee, those are the real siddhis. These temporary siddhis that manifest from the mode of goodness, they are also temporary, and those siddhis cannot take one back home, back to Godhead. When it comes to Kapila, we have two Kapilas, the atheistic Kapila and Devahuti Kapila, Devahuti Putra Kapila. Atheistic Kapila, he was only interested in the analytical study of the 24 elements, how the 24 elements manifest the material world. That is his interest. And so that is said to be atheistic. It has no relationship with devotional service. It has no relationship with the Supreme. But Devahuti Putra Kapila, he actually taught devotional service by means of Sankhya philosophy. Jaimini, he propounded the Karma Mimamsa philosophy, that material work and its results are the reality of life, that you cannot achieve anything without working. Whatever you have to achieve in life, you must work hard to get a result. But that also doesn't apply in every situation. Some people don't work, but they have everything they need. And some people work very hard, and yet they cannot meet up with their daily demands. So there must be some force. There must be some energy, some power, some authority, some intelligence that is monitoring and making sure that everybody gets his quota. So if you don't have your quota, you may work very hard. But if that is not your quota, you will not get it. Then we have Astavakra. Astavakra, he also talked about the atomic Brahman effulgence. The Brahma Jyoti is actually full of atomic cells, atomic particles of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Astavakra is an impersonalist. So for the impersonalists, they think these molecules of Brahman or atoms of Brahman, they are supreme. One can expand into the Supreme. And so they call everybody Daridra Narayan. Every living entity walking on the face of the earth is a Narayan, but it's a poor Narayan. And so they give their own definition of Narayan. Narayan means the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So how can Narayan be Daridra? How can he be poor? But that is the impersonalist understanding of Narayan. And then finally, Srila Vyasadeva. Srila Vyasadeva is also one of those philosophers mentioned among the six. He is the author of the Vedas, author of the Vedic literatures. And after compiling the whole Vedic literatures, Srila Vyasadeva was not satisfied. He was feeling great despondency. And as a result, Narada Muni had to Narada Muni had to appear before him and instruct him what to do. I think you give me 1 second. Something is happening somewhere. 1 second, I'll be back.
Sorry, Prabhuji, you may have to unmute. You are muted. Sorry. Okay.
So Srila Vyasadeva, he is one of the 6 philosophers of India, major philosophers of India, and he compiled the Vedic literatures. But even after compiling the Vedic literatures, he was not satisfied. He was feeling despondent. And Sri Narada Ji, the transcendental spaceman, understood the mind of Srila Vyasadeva. And so he approached Srila Vyasadeva and advised him that you have written a lot. You've done a great job, but you have not touched upon the absolute truth. And because you have not touched upon the absolute truth, that is why you are still unhappy. So therefore, if you want to be happy, then you must touch upon the absolute truth. So there are many philosophies, there are many theories, there are many arguments, but it is said that all these fallacious conclusions of speculative philosophers even bewilder the philosophers themselves. Their philosophy bewilders them themselves. What to speak of others? They are considered the most intelligent. They are considered the most exalted when it comes to thinking, but they themselves are bewildered by their philosophy. And as a result, they are not able to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, it is mentioned, Tarko Pratishta Shrutayo Vibhina, that dry arguments are inconclusive. A great personality whose opinion does not differ from others is not considered a great sage. Simply by studying the Vedas, which are variegated, one cannot come to the right path. The solid truth of the absolute truth is hidden in the heart of unadulterated, self-realized personalities. Consequently, the Shastras advise that one must accept whatever comes off the lips of such personalities. Mahajana yana gata sampataha. One must follow in the footsteps of the great devotees, the great acharyas, the great personalities. In a conversation between Yamaraj and his servants, the Yamadutas, when the Yamadutas went to arrest Ajamil, they were frustrated their efforts were frustrated by the Vishnu Dutas because Ajamil happened to have called upon Lord Narayan's name. And just by that single pronouncement of Lord Narayan's name, the Vishnu Dutas appeared on the scene and drove the Yamadutas away. The Yamadutas were so frustrated, they were so disappointed that they went back to Yamaraj to complain. And Yamaraj told them that he is not the final authority, although he is among those who understand the principles of religion. He is among those who know the science of Bhagavatam. He is among those who are authorized to describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead to others, but he is not the ultimate personality of Godhead. So he said, Soyambu Narada Sambu Kumaro Kapilo Manhu, that there are 12 authorities, Lord Brahma, Narada, Lord Shiva, the 4 Kumaras, Kapila, the son of Devahuti, Swayambhuva Manu, Prahlad Maharaj, Janaka Maharaj, grandfather Bhishmadev, Bali Maharaj, Shukadev Goswami, and he himself, Yamaraj. They are the authorities when it comes to knowledge about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So knowledge about the soul, knowledge about the Supreme Personality of Godhead is concealed in the hearts of exalted devotees. And only such exalted devotees, this knowledge, this confidential, most confidential knowledge is revealed. Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Guyatamam Bhuyaha, Shrinume Paramam Vacha. That my dear Arjuna, because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. So, to understand Bhagavatam, to understand the signs that Srila Vyasadeva has come to give us, one has to follow in the footprints. One has to follow in the footsteps of these 12 Mahajans. One cannot just follow anybody. Everybody has his philosophy. Everybody is propounding some theory, and especially in India, everybody has his own philosophy. But where will such philosophy take us to? What is the destination of following such philosophy? So therefore, it is recommended that one should follow the instructions of the great personalities, of the great Mahajans, of the great Acharyas, because within the core of their heart, they understand this most confidential knowledge of the soul, of the Supreme Lord, and the relationship between the two. Without that knowledge, it's simply a matter of speculation. And Krishna further says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharma Parityaja, that everyone should surrender unto me. Everybody should surrender unto me. In fact, it is said that that is the most confidential aspect of Krishna consciousness, surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, becoming 10% surrendered to the Supreme Lord. That is, it is then Krishna reveals his true nature. He reveals his energies. He reveals his pastimes. He reveals everything that is hidden within the core of these great devotees. He reveals it to the candidate. So therefore, Bhagavatam means complete surrender to Krishna. Bhagavatam means following the path of the acharyas. Bhagavatam means to devote one's life totally for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it's only by following this Bhagavatam one can understand the purpose of life, the meaning of life, how things are interrelated, how things are working, how the universe has come about, how the living entity has got its body, and how the living entity can also give up this body and return to the spiritual world. Therefore, Shukadeva Goswami offers his obeisance to Shukadeva Goswami. He says, Yat swano bhavam akila shruti sharam ekam. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the spiritual master of all the sages. That is the son of Srila Vyasadeva, who out of his great compassion for those gross materialists who struggle to cross over the darkest regions of material existence, spoke this most confidential supplement to the cream of the Vedic knowledge after having assimilated it by experience. So Shukadeva Goswami is a living example of assimilating this knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he transmitted that knowledge to his disciple, Parikshit Maharaj. And while he was speaking to Parikshit Maharaj, Sutta Goswami was present. And then later on in the forest of Naimisaranya, he also transmitted the message of Srimad Bhagavatam to the 88,000 sages who had assembled there to hear this most important message of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his discussion with Sanatana Goswami, also makes some important statements. He says, to understand the science of Krishna, there are 6 essential things: Krishna Tattva, Bhava Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, Prema Tattva, Rasa Tattva, Lila Tattva. These are the 6 areas that deals with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, Prema Tattva, Bhava Tattva, Rasa Tattva, and Lila Tattva. Krishna consciousness simply means understanding the truth of Krishna, understanding the truth of devotional service, understanding the truth of love of Godhead, understanding the truth of emotional ecstasy, understanding the truth of transcendental mellows, and understanding the truth of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu concludes by saying, Sri Bhagavatattva Rasa Karila Prachare Krishna Tuliya Bhagavata Janila Samsare. That he personally tasted Srimad Bhagavatam, because every day Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will listen to Srimad Bhagavatam from the lips of Garadhara Pandit. He personally tasted Srimad Bhagavatam, and he also distributed Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, the transcendental truths and mellows of Srimad Bhagavatam are non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, Srimad Bhagavatam and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are identical. For Srimad Bhagavatam is said to be the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is why Srila Vyasadeva's appearance in this world is very, very important. It's very crucial. Because without Srila Vyasadeva's appearance in this world, to compile this cream of creams, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the science of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the science of the individual soul, the science of the relationship between the individual soul and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, would remain unknown. And all of these philosophers, they will continue to speculate back and forth and just confuse everybody. But by the mercy of Srila Vyasadeva, this knowledge is clear. Anybody who comes in touch with Srimad Bhagavatam automatically will just throw away all these other philosophies which have no meaning. Therefore, it is said, Lokasya janato vidwams chakre satwatam samhimtam. Srila Vyasadeva, he appeared in this world just to compile the Vedic literatures, which is in relationship with the supreme absolute truth for the benefit of humanity. Without Srila Vyasadeva presenting the Srimad Bhagavatam, it will be very difficult for the living entities in this world to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All of these philosophies that are being propagated left, right, and center would simply confuse people more and more and more. And you shouldn't be surprised that in India, people are very confused. They are so confused about who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are so confused about the philosophy of life. They are so confused about the goal of life. Everybody has his own idea. What is the goal of life and how to achieve the goal of life? It is only when you read the Srimad Bhagavatam compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, then the things fall in place. Things become very clear. So therefore, it is said that even though this knowledge is necessary, this knowledge is important, but many people in this world are completely ignorant. Lokasya janato vidwams. Lokasya means the people in general, the people of the world. They have no knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam. They have no knowledge of the science of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They have no knowledge of the relationship between the soul and the Supreme. And therefore, they simply speculate and create all kinds of philosophies that leads nowhere. So therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam, which teaches the science of the Supreme, is the real philosophy that can save everyone from this problem of different philosophies, which are more or less like bees attacking everyone. It is said, Veda Puranam Kavyam Prabhur Mitram Priyayivacha Bodhayantiti Na Prahus Trivit Bhagavatam Punaha. It is said that the Vedas instructs like a master. The Puranas instructs like a friend. The poetic work of the Brahma Sutras or the Vedanta Sutras instructs like a lover. But the Srimad Bhagavatam does all the three. The Srimad Bhagavatam does all the three. Therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam is considered the best of all the scriptures. Nimna ganam yata ganam, devanam achuto yataha. Just like the river Ganges is flowing to purify the whole universe, and just like Lord Sambhu, the greatest of Vaishnavas, is the greatest of all deities, the Srimad Bhagavatam is considered the best of all scriptures. And by coming in touch with the Srimad Bhagavatam, one can actually understand things very, very clearly. And that is why Narada Muni appeared before Srila Vyasadeva and instructed him to write the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is considered the cream of the creams of the Vedic literatures. The Vedanta Sutra is considered the cream of the Vedic literatures. And the cream of the Vedanta Sutra is the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. Therefore, the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM is described as the cream of the creams. And so, by associating the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, one is certainly sure of understanding the philosophies of life. One is certainly sure of knowing the goal of life, and one will benefit greatly by coming in touch with SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. In fact, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited Vrindavan and was in ecstasy and was embracing all the trees in the forest of Vrindavan, he said Mahaprabhu was chanting the holy names very loudly, and the trees were responding with an echo. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was feeling great ecstasy. He felt that the trees were responding to his chanting, his loud chanting. And therefore, he began to embrace every tree in the forest of Vrindavan. And in fact, when Mahaprabhu embraced all the trees, they were visibly in ecstasy. They were raising their branches. They were raising their flowers. They were bowing before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then all the animals in the forest were gathering around Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just grabbed one deer and told the deer to chant the holy names of Krishna. And this deer fell into ecstasy. And then he also began to chant. And then all the different living entities were coming to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because they have seen that by his embrace, just by embracing the trees, they were in ecstasy. So every living entity wanted to experience the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness. So it is said that some two parrots came and settled on Lord Chaitanya's hand. And one of the parrots began to sing the glories of Krishna. And what did the parrot say? The parrot started to glorify Krishna. He said the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the summum bonum of the entire universe. His beauty is victorious over the gopis of Vrindavan, and he subdues their passions. His pastimes outstand the goddess of fortune. His bodily strength turns Govardhan into a small toy like a ball. His spotless qualities are unlimited, and his behavior satisfies everyone. And Lord Krishna is very attractive to everyone. And all of this information is captured in the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. So anyone who comes in touch with the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM automatically is in touch with Sri Krishna. And by coming in touch with Sri Krishna, all of these different philosophies that are like wasps, they are like bees, biting people and confusing people, can be cleared at once one is in touch with the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. And that is the role, that is the contribution of Srila Vyasadeva, of all these philosophies that we have heard of. The best philosophy is the philosophy given by Srila Vyasadeva in the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. And therefore, anyone who reads the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, anyone who associates with the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, directly associates with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And immediately, all of this confusion of the different philosophies can be mitigated simply by hearing the message of SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. So that is where I want to end this lecture today. If there are any questions, there are any comments, they are welcome. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, His Grace. I read the verse and I was wondering how you're going to lecture on it, because talking about the 6 philosophies, just talking about one alone will take us months and months and months. But
yeah,
somehow you were able to handle it so beautifully. So devotees, at this point, if anyone has a question, please indicate that using the hand emoji. If you have a comment also. Prabhuji, my question first, my question is, I understand Jamini, who is one of the major philosophers coming from India, is one of the 5 prominent disciples of Vyasadeva.
Yes.
So how does such a prominent disciple become such a very, excuse me my language, horrible philosopher? But how did he deviate from his spiritual master that much?
Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you. Thank you. It's a very interesting question. You see, so Srila Prabhupada often says that it is not a matter of birth, that one may take birth in a very exalted family, but one may misuse that opportunity. Similarly, Prabhupada says that one may even have the opportunity to meet a very exalted personality, but one may still misuse the opportunity. So, Gemini is one of the disciples of Srila Vyasadeva, one of the principal disciples. When you look at the philosophy he's proposing, after meeting Srila Vyasadeva and studying under him, he also went and created his own understanding. You see, so birth is not a qualification. Even taking shelter of an exalted personality is important, but it depends on our mood. If we don't surrender to the authority, that spiritual authority, to exalted authority, and follow his instructions, then we become, the Sanskrit word, rejected. We become a rejected arm, rejected branch, like the case of Ramachandra, is it Ramachandra Khan, the disciple of Ishwarapuri. Actually, they are disciples of Madhavendra Puri. Ishwarapuri and Ramachandra Khan, they are God brothers. They are disciples of Madhavendra Puri. Yes. But Ramachandra Khan was very critical of his spiritual master. He was when his spiritual master was in his last days and could not sit up. Ramachandra Khan was criticizing his spiritual master, that, my dear Guru, you preach such high philosophy. You exemplified pure love of Krishna. Now, why are you in this state? You should wake up and demonstrate how you're not this body, you know. So by such behavior, he actually offended his Guru Maharaj, Madhavendra Puri. And so Madhavendra Puri condemned him, that he will become a useless disciple. And as a result, he became a critic of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Meanwhile, Ishwarapuri, who served his Guru Maharaj so nicely in his last days, he was cleaning his body, cleaning his stool, cleaning his urine, feeding him. His Guru blessed him and said, because of your devotion, a very, very important personality will become your disciple. And as a result, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became a disciple of Ishwarapuri. So, Madhavendra Puri is said to be a great devotee. He came down from the spiritual world to establish Krishna Bhakti, Prema Bhakti, Madhurya Ras. I said before his time, Madhurya Ras wasn't known. Even Sakya Ras and Vasalya Ras wasn't known. Many people just depended on Dasya Ras and Santa Ras. But it was Madhavendra Puri who revealed to the world Sakya Ras, Vasalya Ras, and Madhurya Ras. But Ramachandra Khan could not take advantage of such an exalted person. And he became a useless disciple, a useless arm. So similarly, Jaimini, even though he is a disciple of such an exalted personality like Srila Vyasadeva, yet he ends up with such a philosophy, Kama Mimamsa philosophy. So I don't know whether I've answered your question.
Yeah, you did. Thank you so much. Like you were saying, it's not by birthright or just by being a disciple of a special soul. It depends on how one takes advantage of what is.
Take advantage. Yes.
Yes. So thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
But I was very shocked when I first learned that Jaimini was one of the principal disciples of Srila Vyasadeva. So, well, okay. Thank you so much. So anyone with any question, comment, please indicate that by raising your hand.
If there are no comments, go to this Ekadashi. We are fasting, no energy.
Yeah, the waiters are fasting, no energy. Okay, Chakra Prabhu, unmute.
If there are no comments, we just retire.
Hare Chakra Prabhu, please unmute and go ahead.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Can you hear me?
Hare Krishna. Hare
We can hear you, but your voice is kind of distant. If you can be closer to your mic.
What about now?
Yes, much better.
Better.
Okay. Yeah, my question is, Srila Vyasadeva being the compiler of the Vedas,
Yeah.
after compiling all the other branches of the Vedas, he was still not happy.
Yeah.
And that's why his spiritual master
Narada Muni
told him to compile the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM.
Yes, Prabhu.
So my question is, it's like a follow-up to the questions Sahadev just asked.
Okay.
My question is, if you are a disciple of a guru, like a disciple of Srila Vyasadeva, picks one aspect of the whole Vedas that his guru has propounded,
yeah,
and he becomes dedicated to it.
yeah.
Is it a deviation from his guru's philosophy?
Well, I think that was why Narada Muni was chastising Srila Vyasadeva. Actually, when Narada Muni appeared on the scene, he chastised Srila Vyasadeva. He said, people are already attached to these rituals and ceremonies and many, many things in this world. So you are encouraging them by giving them a knowledge and philosophy on these things. And so you are entangling them further. So Narada Muni was very heavy with Srila Vyasadeva. And he said, because of that, that is why you are feeling unhappy. You are feeling despondent, because you are, by your writing, some people are going to get entangled by your writing. Some people are going to get more and more involved with the material energy by your writings. And therefore, you cannot be happy by such. Then he recommended that you better write another scripture that can neutralize all of these things that you've written. You have to write the cream of the cream that can help your followers to neutralize that philosophy. So it is true that Srila Vyasadeva wrote all these Sama Veda, Rig Veda, Atharva Veda, and the Yajur Veda, and some of these Vedas just contain demigod worship, contains rituals and things. And so one of the disciples can pick on those ones and just hold on to it. So in one sense, he's trying to follow his Guru Maharaj by picking on that. But then he should also find out from his Guru Maharaj, what does he want him to do? Instead of just picking what he prefers, the better thing is, since the Guru Maharaj has written so many books, he has written the Vedanta Sutra, he has written SRIMAD Bhagavatam, so it would have been better for a disciple to approach his Guru Maharaj and say, you have written so many books, so can you pinpoint which one I should read? And if the Guru Maharaj say, all right, go ahead and read Samaveda, go ahead and read Yajurveda, which describes rituals to demigods and materialistic activities, then in that sense, he is not disobeying the Guru, he is not deviant. But if he did not ask the Guru, and the Guru has written so many books, and especially because Narada Muni had come to chastise Srila yesterday for that work, before he went into another meditation, and at the maturity of his spiritual life, the maturity, the epitome of his realization, then he compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam. So disciples, they're supposed to approach their Guru Maharaj and find out that which of these scriptures you recommend for us, which one should we follow? And in this way, they will know the inner desire of the spiritual master and they can be guided. But they just picked whatever they wanted and went away with it. And so, even though it is written by their spiritual master, but the blame will still go to them because they did not ask their spiritual master what they should take and what they should not take. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for answer.
Hare Krishna, I still have a follow-up question.
Yeah,
all right, yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, give me a. So if that is the case, that even though the spiritual master has written all these books, hey, and if it's the best thing to do is to ask the spiritual master what to do, for the spiritual master to instruct you, thank you, which one should take, then we as members of ISKCON, Prabhupada categorically stated that I've given you all that you need to go back home, back to Godhead. All these books. So then what is the need for us to go outside of Srila Prabhupada's book to go and read another book, whether Rupa Goswami's book or all the previous acharyas? Because the Guru himself has categorically stated that I have given you everything that you need to go back home, back to Godhead. So isn't that enough for us that we still want to probe and go and look for other things somewhere?
Yeah, your question is a very serious question. A very serious question, but I'll try to answer. Actually, Prabhupada has given us everything, not two ways about it. And His Holiness Srila Guru Govinda Maharaj, he took to writing and he said categorically that he wanted to prove that everything we needed was in Prabhupada's books. Talk of Bhava, talk of Madhurya, talk of any of the relationship with Krishna. Guru Govinda Maharaj said, everything Prabhupada gave us, especially if you study the Chaitanya Charitamrita, all the detailed information about love of Godhead are all reported in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So therefore, whatever we needed to go back home, back to Godhead, Prabhupada has given us, for sure. But, there is a but, because Srila Prabhupada made references to some of these books in his purports, like he refers to the Sandarbhas of Jiva Goswami, he refers to the the books of Rupa Goswami, the books of Sanatana Goswami, Hari Bhakti Vilas, and so many other acharya, he refers to them in his books, in his purports. That has kind of inspired the devotees that since Prabhupada has mentioned them in his books, he has taken some part, he has made references to them in his books, it means they are not forbidden. And that is why some devotees veered out of what Prabhupada has given us to study the Goswami's books, to study the Sandarbhas and all other things like that. So, but actually, Srila Guru Govinda Maharaj says that whatever we need to become Krishna conscious, it is available in Prabhupada's books. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the SRIMAD Bhagavatam, in the Bhagavad Gita, these three books are enough to take us home back to Godhead. But devotees, they want to exercise their brain power, they want to exercise their knowledge, and so they veer into many, many areas. So there's a division, actually. Some of the GBC members do not support that. And some of the GBC members say when Prabhupada has made reference to them in his books, indirectly, he has authorized devotees to read them. So there is a division in opinion concerning the Goswami's books, because the Prabhupada made mention of them in his purports. And if Prabhupada had not mentioned them at all, then devotees could be checked from reading them. But once Prabhupada has mentioned them in some of the purports, some devotees feel, well, if Prabhupada did not want us to read them, then why is he mentioning them? So that is the excuse that they use as a way of going into the Goswami's books. So that is the answer I can give for now. There is a division in this situation. Some think we should not read any other book except what Prabhupada has given us, because whatever we need is there in Prabhupada's books. But some also say Prabhupada made references to these books. And so if they are not good for us, why is Prabhupada making references to them? And so the argument goes on. And so some prefer to do that. There are some devotees, they don't read any other books. I know some senior devotees, Prabhupada disciples, they don't read any other books except SRIMAD Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhagavad Gita, and all the other books Prabhupada has written. I know some devotees like that. They don't read anything else. But there are other devotees who are also venturing into the book, and they say Prabhupada has made reference to them, and therefore they could also venture into that. So that is the situation we find ourselves in.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. This it's one of those eternal controversies we are going to live with till the end of time.
That's right. It's true.
Yeah. But well, considering how Narada Muni was chastising his disciple yesterday for writing all these different literatures which are already being practiced in the world, why don't you just concentrate on the Srimad Bhagavatam? But to me, of course, it's a pastime, but to me, it is also necessary that Srila Vyasadeva did what he did.
Yeah.
Because, not everyone is going to follow Srila Vyasadeva's line, Achintya Veda Veda Tattva.
Yeah.
Some people may be interested in Jaimini's philosophy. Some people may be interested in even none of the 6 major philosophers, but somebody like Guru Nanak, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
People may be interested in his philosophy, Sikhism.
Sikhism, yeah.
And slowly and gradually, just by following that, they may be led to practicing Krishna consciousness.
Yes.
Just like most of us were Christians, Muslims, and now we are Hare Krishnas because it wasn't too difficult for us to understand because of where we were. So even though it's not like very big, but it's also helpful. So could we say that it's just a pastime that the spiritual master chastises the disciple, even though the disciple, what the disciple did wasn't like really bad, but he still chastises him anyway, like Narada and Srila Vyasadeva.
Yeah. Yes, actually, the fact is we cannot get everybody to be a lover of Srimad Bhagavatam. No. Neither can we get everybody to be interested in Vedanta Sutras. No. So therefore, Vyasadev's mindset was there are different categories of people. It's just like even the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata was written for a particular class of people. So similarly, the different Vedic Vedas are meant for different categories of people. But Narada's posture is that you should offer them the ultimate. Offer them the ultimate. Let them reject it. But if you don't give them the ultimate, then they'll go for a lesser thing. They'll go for something cheap. And because you already introduced them to the cheap thing, they may not even want to take the ultimate. So I think that was the point it was coming from. The chastisement was coming from the fact that in the material world, it means attachment, it means sense gratification. So the every effort should be done to discourage people from this path of praviti marga, sense gratification. But in his writings, there are some areas that encourage this sense gratification. So, but surely we cannot have everybody on the same level. We cannot have everybody thinking the same way. So therefore, Srila Vyasadeva, he wrote the scriptures for different classes of people. But his spiritual master was not happy with that. He wanted him to just offer pure bhakti from the very onset and let them take it or let them reject it. You know, these are the Vaikuntha men. They call it the Vaikuntha men. For them, they want everybody to go for the Vaikuntha. Like Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, they say he used to carry the hammer on one hand and the scripture on the other hand. You either take the scripture or you take a hammer. So his mood is they should take Krishna consciousness from the onset, no other options. But the truth, the reality is that there are different categories of living entities, and they cannot all accept Krishna consciousness, Bhagavatam at the same time. So gradually, they will go through, it will take them many lives, but gradually they will go through the different stages, and eventually they will get there. Just as we are saying, we were not born into Krishna consciousness, but wherever we went, we gradually grew, and finally we are here. So therefore, Vyasadeva, his mind was to give chance to every living entity to gradually rise to the ultimate. But his Guru Maharaj did not accept that. He said, you should just give them the thing from the onset. And those who don't want, that's their business. But you give them what is necessary, like that. So it's also a way of instructing us. Yeah, that the Guru has a right to chastise the disciple. Yeah. So in fact, we can even see Srila Vyasadeva is not an ordinary disciple.
Yeah.
He's an authority himself. He's not an ordinary disciple.
Yeah.
He's a literary incarnation of Krishna. Yet, he submitted himself to Srila Narada Muni, and he accepted the chastisement, and he did what his Guru wanted him to do. So this is a pastime, it's an instruction, it's a lesson for all of us to follow. And so it becomes necessary that we should always be ready for the chastisement of the spiritual master. Yeah. Even though sometimes we may think we are right, but the Guru can say, no. Whatever you're doing, I don't like it. Do like this. So I think that is the whole by pastime. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We want to recognize His Grace Advaita Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, you're welcome.
Hare Krishna, Advaita Krishna Prabhu. Say something.
Hare Krishna, SRIVAS Prabhu. Hare Krishna, all the
Hare
devotees.
Hare.
Yeah, Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jai, Jai, Jai. So say something. I want to hear from you.
Yes, say something, Prabhuji.
I think you made I think you were a very good lawyer for Narad Muni there.
Hare Krishna.
And I'm thinking how nice it is actually what you said. And yeah, because Narad Muni told him, he said, you should repetitively over and over again in a direct manner glorify Krishna.
That's right.
Which he hadn't done. Because that the opportunity wasn't there in his other writings to do that.
Yeah.
So therefore, and as in this age of Kali, we have very, very little time. You know, we really have so little time. So then, you know, he made a very good point. The other aspect of it is also, my Guru Maharaj told me once, he said that it has to be seen in the parampara that every major stepping up to the absolute truth is always done by the transformation of the disciple through the Guru. So from that aspect, I think that the Bhagavad Parampara, the Bhagavad Sampradaya we belong to, Narad Muni had to come to Vyasadeva and sort of set his course right. And all transformation is always done. And it's just like Dhruva's transformation was done by Narad Muni. And when Srila Prabhupada talks about his own transformation, or Chaitanya's transformation by Ishwara Puri.
Yeah.
So that's also important, that we have to recognize that without the mercy and without being straightened up to the right path by the mercy of the spiritual master, doesn't happen. And the Lord never misses that opportunity to kind of makes that point over and over again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Important points. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you. And it's a fact also that, you know, and just today we were discussing very interestingly that Vyasadeva, he comes at the beginning of Dwapar Yuga and he writes everything back at the end of Dwapar Yuga, and he's going to come again and again. So each of the editions are different, and Lord allows for modifications by the acharyas, just like Srila Prabhupada has expanded the scope and the explanation of Srimad Bhagavatam through Bhaktivedanta purports. Narad Muni expanded from teachings of Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma expanded from his Chatushloki. So I think he's going to go on. And like now everyone else, we are all expanding, helping a little bit to expand. You are, and everyone else who's teaching, who's expanding the message to everyone else, that it was well thought out. I'm sorry I don't attend the classes so much because I wish to, because it's a difficult time for me. I have many engagements and services at that time, but I'd love to hear from all of you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. We also love to hear from you.
Yeah. So is it likely that we're going to have like the 13th volume of Srimad Bhagavatam at some point? Just like we say, okay, the 6th Goswamis, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is now considered the 7th Goswami. I mean, we have added on to the 6th Goswamis because of his unique position on our line. So I've always been thinking, is there going to be a time we're going to have the 13th volume of the Srimad Bhagavatam? Because the Bhagavatam, the different cantos are all described to represent the different bodily parts of Krishna. And if we happen to have a 13th volume, which part of body of Krishna is it going to be describing? I don't know if you have an answer to that, Prabhuji.
Yeah, and Advaita Krishna Prabhu, you want to respond?
I would, it will all fall into the absolute truth. You cannot extend the absolute truth. So everything that will come, it will come into the absolute truth, because the knowledge is complete. It may add extra beauty, description of different parts of the same knowledge. And we are speculating sort of intellectually that in the next presentation of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the next Divya Yuga, you know, the six Goswamis hopefully will be there, and Srila Prabhupada might be there. Why not?
Why not? And also, I wanted to say that you know, Sanatana Goswami, he summarized the Srimad Bhagavatam into the Brihad Bhagavatamritam. And I think there's another one,
Lagu Bhagavatamrita.
Lagu Bhagavatam. So these are like the cream of Bhagavatam, the summary of Bhagavatam. So even though devotees are putting these things together, but it is not something new. It's just a summary of what is already there. Just as Prabhu said, the Lord is complete. And so we cannot extend the Lord. The Bhagavatams, the volumes are matched with the different parts of the Lord. And so the 10th canto is said to be the face of Krishna. And then the 11th and 12th canto are supposed to be the crown.
Crown.
Yeah, so when somebody wears a crown, what else can he wear again?
Yeah.
Maybe peacock feathers.
It's so nice hearing it. I mean, about Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the love of my life. Srimad Bhagavatam, it's got so many layers, so many beautiful layers. And I think I always compare it to be like, if you dive into the sea and you go, two divers dive into the sea, can you come back and describe everything you've seen? Impossible.
Yeah.
The corals, the pebbles, the fish, all the different animals, and you know, it's just impossible. Yeah. So it's like it's got layers and layers and layers to discover, because it is the absolute truth. It's none different than Krishna. So yeah, but like, you know, Srivas Prabhu was talking about the different supplements to the Srimad Bhagavatam, even the Sandarbhas written by Jiva Goswami.
That's right.
The Sandarbhas. Then you have the Krama Sandarbhas that he explains each verse in detail. So yeah, these are all, I think the final word in Vedanta is Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
And everything else will rotate around it. And I think there's nothing is going to supplant or do better than it, because it is the absolute truth. It is none different than Krishna.
Even the CC is around the Bhagavatam, right? Is that true? Is that right? I mean, Chaitanya Charitamrita is also as a result of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Even though, my Guru Maharaj told me it's a practical application.
Yeah. Okay, it's a practical application of the Bhagavatam.
Yes. Application.
Practical application.
Okay. All right. His Grace Salika Prabhu, please unmute. Hare Krishna. No, bad microphone.
What of this?
Okay, good. You have to identify that particular microphone and do away with it.
I'm a wealthy guy, so I have so many. So I just exhibit my opulence.
Okay, good. All right, go ahead.
It deserves not a conch on your head. Sometimes you can have some kind of questions that it puts one off the track, you know. Your last question was like, I was just wondering, where did you get that from? How did you come about that question? Well, anyway, that's a very thoughtful one. It takes a deep, thoughtful person to ask such a kind of a question. Yeah, because one can start wondering, next Divya Yuga, so what are we going to be talking about? It's a very deep thought. It puts a whole lot of thinking in my head. And I think I have to think about that for several months to come. Just a comment on that. My question, the reason I'm raising my hand is I was just reflecting on application of the verse we're reading and then the very beautiful narrations and the presentation SRIVAS VANACARI has given, and the follow-up question that has been going on. And I was thinking about the philosophy, practically looking at Shlab yesterday and the instructions of Narad Muni. The chastisement was coming on the basis of the fact that Narad Muni, Shlab yesterday has not sufficiently glorified the Supreme Lord. And I'm looking at that statement in the life of a sadhaka, practitioner of Krishna consciousness in our modern times. We engage in every day-to-day life activities. And sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're not happy. We could say yes, according to the influence of the most of material nature. So we experience these waves of ups and happiness and distress sometimes. But when we look at the context in which Srila Narad Muni came in and the thinking or the thoughts of Srila Vyasadeva, bringing it down to our practical devotional practice, how do we ascertain when our dissatisfaction is as a result of, this is my question, how do we ascertain when the dissatisfaction is as a result of not having sufficiently glorified Krishna, or is as a result of our conditional state of mind? Is my question clear?
Yeah. Let me see. Maybe, maybe Advaita Krishna Prabhu, you might take it while we wait for His Grace SRIVAS VANACARI.
Well,
I think he got kicked out from the line, internet or something.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Well, one thing is we can never sufficiently glorify Krishna. So there's two aspects to it. Spiritually, we never there's no satiation to glorification of Krishna. So spiritually, we will always feel like we're not doing enough. So that there's never a question of the more we glorify, the more we want to glorify. So from the spiritual side, I don't think that we will ever feel like I've glorified enough. That's one angle to take it from the absolute platform. Like you see the history of Uddhava. You know, the Lord told him in Dwarka, he said, don't follow me. Now you go to Braj and do the other things I've already instructed you, go to Badrinath. But he actually insisted, he followed the Lord to Prabhashrestra, and Krishna was sitting under the banyan tree, and a small banyan tree, the right foot on the left, and he was preparing to actually, wind up his pastimes. And then he ended up giving him, what's Uddhava Gita at that time, because he wanted to hear more and more and more. So we never satiated, so the dissatisfaction spiritually will always be also there. We'll be happy, but we'll always want to get more. Now, whether this comes from our material conditioning, up to the point that we have this, we're not completely, we're still entertaining our sense enjoyment, our sense gratification in any way, or our mental gratification in any way, then it will, of course, hamper. This principle of, you can get the answer in the gist of always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna, right? So two aspects. Is it the same? Does that question has the same meaning? Is it means the same thing? Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. There's two sides to this. You always remember Krishna means you always pouring into your heart through your ears, karna randhena, Krishna katha, positively filling up the heart with purity, with pure Krishna consciousness, transcendence, right? But then we say, never forget Krishna. What does that mean? It means you have to plug all the holes. So when do we forget Krishna? Is when we engage in sense enjoyment or sense gratification. That's when we forget Krishna. So two aspects to this. Never forget Krishna means don't engage in sense enjoyment. So if you're not engaging in sense enjoyment, there will not be dissatisfaction. How will there be dissatisfaction? If we are pouring in through the ear Krishna Katha and remembering all the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his pastimes and his name and his devotees' pastimes and so on and so forth, there cannot be. So the dissatisfaction, the idea of the dissatisfaction is forgetting Krishna. It is not the same thing. When do we forget Krishna? When we think about our own enjoyment, our own senses, we forget Krishna. That's how I see it. SRIVAS Prabhu and other seniors can add to it or correct me.
Well, thank you so much. Salika Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhu. I think I got the answers from your explanation. I think from the angle we should take it, I think it's satisfactory to me. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
SRIVAS Prabhu is still there?
No, he's still not back yet.
Not bad, it's not bad.
He's still not here. But
maybe bad for network.
Yeah, I think it's the network. But I have a question. I think it's kind of pressing question I have. Maybe Advaita Krishna Prabhu, Srimad Prabhu is also here. You can help me out from the text and the purport. It's clear that none of these philosophies is like by themselves able to lead us to knowing Krishna. However, we see that there were some great personalities in the past who consulted some of these personalities, and in the scriptures it is said that they became self-realized. Like in the case of Ashtavakra Muni, he became a spiritual master to kill Janaka, right? And it is said that he gave him God realization. So my question, like in our life experience, is it wrong to associate with people from different schools of thought, like those who are scientists, like Canada, Gautama Prabhupada is saying, they're talking about the genesis of life as the atomic science, or somebody like Ashtavakra, who was an impersonalist, thinking the Brahmanic fortunes is the root cause of everything. Do we shun them completely, or we can associate with them? And if we do associate with them, how do we associate with them and still keep our composure, keep our siddhanta? What do we do?
Someone can answer. Maybe Varaha Prabhu can speak.
Okay, Varaha Prabhu, you may unmute. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, I'm sorry. I'm conducting incineration, cremation in a cemetery.
Oh. Okay. Sorry. All right. So
Okay.
Advaita Krishna Prabhu, I think the ball falls back into your court.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I would say every philosophy falls into the sixth category of Vedic darshanas. Whether it is atomic theory, whether it is an atheist in the West, whether it is a Muslim people, or whether it is a Christian, all of these theories, they fall into the six Vedic darshanas. Means that all philosophical understanding, darshana means understanding. So all philosophical understanding falls under the category of 6 Vedic darshanas. And Srila Prabhupada rightly said once, he said, no one should sit on the Vyasasana unless he knows the 6 Vedic darshan, which means the 6 Vedic philosophy. Now, what does that mean to say? We actually study them? No, it means that once we comparatively understand the Vedanta, that our philosophy, the Parinama Shaktivad, the Achinta Veda Veda Tattva, our philosophy actually aptly explains all the other philosophies, and all the other philosophies are inadequate in actually taking us back to Godhead. None of them can take you, whether it is Sankhya, whether it is Jnana, whether it is Yoga, whether it is Karma Mimamsha, whether it is Dvaita Dvaita, they can never take you. Vishishta Dvaita, variations of it, they can never take you back to Godhead. So if you follow properly the 6 Vedic darshanas, you will understand that actually Vedanta Sutra explains these Vedic philosophies. They explain Yoga and Sankhya, Karma Mimamsha and Dvaita Dvaita. They explain it very nicely. Yeah. But we are not able to discern how they explain. You see, if one devotees were asking Srila Prabhupada questions, he could immediately see where they're coming from, whether they're coming from the atomic theory, whether they are the atheists, the nihilists, or whether they are the impersonalists. He could immediately see, and therefore he could answer very promptly and aptly. So the Vedanta, the philosophy that we study, is actually the culmination of the progressive step from the different Vedic philosophies reaching up to Vedanta, which is explained properly in Srimad Bhagavatam. So when you have, my point is, when you got access to the best college in the Harvard University, why do you want to go and study in University of California?
That's a good question.
Right?
There is no need.
No need.
Yeah.
No need.
Yeah.
No need. We just said, just to add on that, Prabhu, just recently, this is the 3rd time I followed courses on Saddarshana. But this time, it was conducted by a very, very, very nice lecturer. And he's an Indian devotee. He is very young and much younger than us in the movement, but he comes from the Madhava Sampradaya. And he's a disciple of His Holiness Krishna Maharaj. And this is my 3rd time I followed Saddarshana. This one was a real one. This one, he actually explained it. The other people explain it from the angle of the different philosophers. But this devotee explained it from the angle of Vedanta and Vedanta Sutra, from the angle of Srimad Bhagavatam. And it actually made sense to me. And this was never taught before even in ISKCON. So now I can really understand the supremacy of our philosophy. So anyway, this can go on. I have to yield the floor.
Well, thank you so much, Prabhuji. You see, Krishna is amazing. It is not by chance that of all the days you've been able to join today, even out of your busy schedule, you've been able to join us today because Krishna knew that there was going to be this accident. His Grace Srimad VANACARI will be missing. So you can step in. So thank you so much, Prabhuji. We can't thank you enough. Yes. Hare Krishna, I do not want to do this, but I would like to say that we'll bring the class to a close, except somebody has something very important to ask or say, because our main speaker cannot come back, I believe. At this point, I don't think he's coming back. So, Salika Prabhu, do you agree with me that we bring the class to a close now?
Yeah, I have to unwillingly agree with you because, to be sincere, this topic we're discussing today, actually, one of the reasons yesterday when I was supposed to step into Mother Raj, the reason I was reluctant to speak was actually this, because you cannot treat this section without actually delving into the nitty-gritty of the 6 philosophies of Vedic knowledge. And it's a very in-depth subject matter. And when I had the opportunity to study, at the time I had to do a presentation to some final year students in the world religion. And when I delved into it, I initially read Vedic thoughts of Swarup Goswami, but then when I had to do it as a teaching, I have to teach the 6 Vedic teachings of the Vedas. I realized that there is so much in depth to it, and it's actually reflecting in our day-to-day practice of the devotional service and our realization. So, but then, like I said, this is a very deep subject matter. I would have loved to hear at least some more from Advaita Krishna Prabhu and maybe SRIVAS VANACARI, but like you said, it's been almost 2 hours we've been here. Maybe tomorrow we'll have opportunity to go deeper into it, because I think this subject is still extending. So I will unwillingly agree with you.
All right.
We can bring
Thank you for unwillingly accepting. Okay, so at this point, we're going to humbly request all the devotees to please kindly unmute, and then we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our appreciation to our original speaker and our fellow God brothers, God sisters, loved ones on this forum. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Vanchakalpataruvyasya
Ravyasya kripasindhavya ivacha
Tamam
pavabhyo vaishnavyo namo namaha.
Ananta Kuti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
All glories to His Grace SRIVAS VANACARI ki jai.
Jai.
All glories to His Grace Advaita Krishna Prabhu ki jai. All glories to assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
When we come tomorrow, there are actually